Friends and family, welcome to another uncomfortable conversation with a married woman. In this episode, we're going to talk about abuse. First of all, I want you to know that I am not a professional. I am not a marriage counselor. I have had no formal education on marriage except for living through marriage for about 25 years so far, and also growing up around different family members who've been married, at least 15 marriages that I've observed growing up, and what my lessons learned were from these marriages. So that's the perspective that I speak from. I want to make sure that that is clear for everybody. If you're ready for it, go ahead and grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's talk about it. This is a very difficult topic for me to talk about because I feel for any couple that gets to that point where they hurt each other physically, mentally, emotionally. What I have witnessed in my lifetime has been mostly the physical and emotional abuse. For anyone, if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, seek help. Because I see on the news and in social media the results of some of these abusive situations that could definitely have been avoided if action had been taken sooner than later. Okay, so please, if you're in that situation, just seek help. I was born into a divorce. My parents, my biological parents, had come to a point in their marriage where they were done, all done. And then, surprise, they were pregnant with me. So it was a difficult situation for both of them. Hearing different accounts from my mother and my father, and also from family members, emotionally, it was painful for both. And what I did see was that was a pain that lasted each of them a lifetime, basically, because it did leave scars for both of my parents that I saw as I got older. What I know is that abuse comes from pain. Pain can be from that situation or from the baggage. Remember, I talked about everybody comes into marriage with baggage. You come from somewhere and you've learned certain things. You have a certain lifestyle. You have a certain perception of life and marriage. And you come with it into your marriage, expecting certain things. So from my father's side, what I've heard was he himself went through some not good things, and I can't talk about it because that's not what I saw. That's what I heard. And that made him a certain kind of way when it came to women. He definitely was a player. He enjoyed women. He spent whatever time he wanted to spend with them, and then he'd move on to the next one. Now, I don't know why he married them, because he wasn't somebody who ever settled down when it came to marriages. And even if not even marriages, he actually would move. We moved so much when I lived with my father. We moved so much. He seemed to be that kind of person where he needed change from time to time. He just needed change. You know what I mean? What I learned off my mother was that she was a more docile person, more subdued. She came from a certain background of stability, of order, longevity, and commitment. That's the background she came from. How the heck the two of them crossed paths and decided to get married, I can't. I don't know. From my father's perspective, I feel like maybe he thought, okay, you know, this is a woman that's not a high time kind of woman who is docile, and I can do this. And from my mother's perspective, I don't know how she didn't see the red flags everywhere with my father. However, my father is so charming. His character is just, he was the life of the party, cracking jokes, very hospitable. You know, what do you need? I'll help you with it. Oh, I know this person. He can get you that. Or, you know, very, very charming and handsome. well educated. He has his doctorate degree, very well educated. There is no subject that he didn't know enough about to have a conversation about. He was yay high, so his ego was all the way up there, making up for the height situation, like me. But that was the kind of person he was. Me now, when I see people like that, it's a red flag. I back up. Maybe because I learned from my father's personality, but when I see people like that, no, I'm sorry. You're too loud. You're too attention seeking. Nah. Anyway, so I saw from my father's side how absolutely charming, he was to these women. And of course, he was one of those that picked the young women, very young women, usually in their 20s, no older than that. And as soon as you started to hit closer to 30 and, 31, 30, whatever, you're too old. Like as if he wasn't aging, right? But what I did see was the courtship was just beautiful to the point where he'd have a driver go pick up the woman to take to work. Most of them were people he worked with or in his work environment. That's another red flag. And it got to a point where the driver would bring the woman to our house and the woman would start to spend the night here and there. And then before you know it, my father did the traditional thing. He never did a wedding. I don't know if I think he and my mother did have the wedding situation. But other than that, traditionally back home, marriage ceremony is basically the man taking certain kind of drinks, knocking to the family of the wife-to-be to ask for her hand in marriage. And then when the family of the wife-to-be receives those things, they start doing certain investigations about the husband-to-be's family to make sure there are no illnesses and diseases and certain genetic disorders that can come and haunt, their family in some kind of way. So that's traditionally that. And then when they find that, okay, good, we've done our investigation and this person is of good character and good blood in their family, then they do the traditional marriage, which was very simple. If you can research it, the traditional Ghanaian marriage. So when you want to break up or when you want to return the woman back to their family, like, I don't want to be married anymore, you take drinks again. Schnapps, gin, whatever it is, you take the drinks again to say, here, I'm done. So in a way, thinking about it, that may have been easier for him when it came to, divorcing these women. So it wasn't such a big deal to him to get married and get divorced, get married and get divorced. There was nothing on paper. There was nothing at the courthouse, none of that stuff. It was the traditional things. But at the same time, even while he was settling down in a new marriage, he was courting somebody else. So that was a pattern. And so by the time he was sick of this person, he was ready to take the drinks to that other one's family to start their married life together. And most of them he would have a child or two with. So yes, I ended up with about 12 or 13 siblings, yes, from my father's side. Now, as the marriage went on, they start eating together, and then it gets to a point where my father eats alone, and then it gets to a point where my father sleeps alone, and he always made sure that there was a room for his wife so that she could sleep alone when it comes to the point when he wanted to sleep alone. And so that's how you saw the progression of the marriage starting to break up. And then it goes to the point where they'd be verbally abusive and insulting each other. And then it would get to the point where the physical, like they actually physically fighting would happen. Now, I never saw the beginnings of who assaulted who first. I just saw and heard when they're in the middle of the altercation. And the end of it where I would see the woman with a bloody nose or whatever it is. So when I'm talking about abuse, there's a progression. I'm saying all this to say there's a progression. And you have to be very, very cognizant. I am so in tune to the progression of it. Listen, I have antennas like this. I see the first sign, listen, I am out of there. Out of there. I don't need to watch it to get to the certain point where you punch me before I know that the abuse has started. There are always signs. Always signs. Look, Google the profile of an abusive person, an abuser. There are always signs. It doesn't often just happen suddenly like that. Usually there's a progression where the disrespect starts. Okay? It starts with something as to me that's big, but some people it's always small. Oh, they insulted me, or they disrespected me, or they disregarded my existence, or they lied to me. No, 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 no. There's a progression there. I'm not saying anybody who does any of these things is an abuser, but I'm saying you have to watch. And if the person has been in a relationship before, and I know women, y'all feel like, oh, the other person is the ex-wife or the ex whatever is always the bad person. No. You better find out. You better ask what happened. Because the man or the woman who is the abuser will always tell you a beautiful story, what happened. And they always play the victim. So then you, on the other hand, are thinking, oh, that person is terrible and they did all these things. Come to find out, it is the reverse. I keep telling people there are always two sides to a story. Never hear one side and feel like you've got the whole picture. Never do that in any situation. Never. Because usually you don't get a full picture until you hear both sides. And sometimes there's more than two sides. The verbal affects a person mentally and emotionally. And sometimes it breaks your defenses down. And when those defenses are down, the physical can come in. So, and I'm saying this because it happens to women and it happens to men. People usually, when they think of abuse, they think it's always a man abusing a woman. No. I've seen women claw men's eyes out. Okay? Don't wait for it to escalate to that point. Do your research if you start seeing signs, because unfortunately, some people don't survive abusive marriages. As I am talking through all these different episodes of working on your marriage and all those kinds of things, not this one. That is why I'm doing this video, not this one. If you're being abused, if you choose to work through it, that's on you. But for me, I value myself too much. You know what I mean? And that's why I keep telling you at the end of the video, be kind to yourself, be kind to your spouse, be respectful to yourself, be respectful to your spouse. I always say you first, because you have to value yourself before somebody will see your value and value you. So I need folks to understand, if there is abuse, please, please, there are different agencies that help you when you're in an abusive relationship. Again, you don't have to wait for it to get physical. There are all kinds of abuse. There are some that never get physical, but it does more damage in here. Your self-worth is like there, and you feel like you don't deserve anything you have, and you don't deserve anything good. And so even if you all separate or divorce, your self-worth is still shot. I saw also other situations where there was, mental and emotional abuse where they would actually insult each other. I never saw them physically hit each other, but the venom in the words could kill a person's soul. And for some reason, they chose to continue to stay together until one died. But they lived in separate bedrooms. They slept in separate bedrooms. They didn't eat together. They avoided each other, but they lived in the same house. And this one, it went both ways. I don't know who started it, but both were doing it. And then there's another situation that I lived in where the man decided that he would not contribute to the household in any way because some of my auntie's family, including myself, lived there, even though some of his family lived there as well. But he chose not to contribute financially in any way, but he ate and drank everything that my auntie, cooked or made, but didn't contribute to it. I don't know what to call that. I don't know if it's some form of abuse or if it is just, I don't know what to call it. But that's not a marriage, is all I'm trying to say. That's not a marriage. And with that one, like I told you in my other video, my auntie did what she had to do. We were out of there in a blink. None of us children even knew the day that we're going to be out of there and if and when, but it happened, and we were gone out of that situation. You have to look at your situation and see whether it's physical, mental, emotional abuse. None of it is okay. I think people feel like only when it's physical that's when it's bad enough that you have to leave. No. Sometimes your spouse is cheating on you like you're the housemaid, and they can just, whenever they feel like it, have whatever other woman. It's not okay. It is not okay. And a lot of us women, and sometimes even the men, tolerate this when we have children with that person. It's a delicate situation when there are children involved. Definitely a very delicate situation when there are children involved. But your self-worth, remember that the children are looking at you and learning self-respect from you, right? So they're looking at what you're tolerating and absorbing it. And in future, in their lives, they will look back to the situation you were in and learn some lesson from it. The thing is it going to be a positive lesson or a negative lesson? And they will either say that is the way to be, or they will say, hell no, I ain't doing that. So you have to, every situation that you're in, when children are involved, you have to think about it, because some people stay in for the children, and that can go either way. That can go either way, because you're teaching your children something at that point, right? So I'm just saying that to say, if you're in an abusive relationship, please seek help for any level of abuse, any of it at all. Seek help, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. Seek help. Okay? That's all I have to say about that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. All I'm going to say is, for me, you better sleep with one eye open. And that's all I'm going to say. So, listen, I'm a shrimp. I'm a 5'2", yay high, but I take no bullshit from nobody. None. I'm sorry. I use bad word. Am I in timeout? Okay, I'm putting myself in timeout. So in order to have, remember, in order to have a wonderful marriage, a thriving marriage, remember to respect yourself and your spouse. Remember to be kind to yourself and your spouse. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Share this video. And I want to know what you think about it, and if you've been in any of these situations and how you dealt with it. All right, so until the next video, you all take care of yourselves.